Do you ever wonder about that green Chevy II that you see in the intro on FITZEE'S Fabrications on the flip side? Well, we're going to have a close look at this car now. This car is owned by Bob Madigan, a local drag racer. Myself and Bobby built this car way back in 2006. Let's take a journey back, way back to 2006, and see where this car started. Bobby picked up this car back in 2006. It's an old local race car. It was raced for a number of years here locally, and the one thing about it, the car was raced for a very long time. I'm willing to say this car was a drag car since the 70s. When you take a car that's been a drag car since the 70s, there was a lot of things added to it and changed over those years. The car was just added on to. Someone changed the rear suspension, then they changed the front end, then they changed the roll cage in it, then they changed the rear suspension in it again. It was a real mess inside this car. Our plan was to just try to tidy up a few things to make the car more usable, but as we got into it, we realized there's no way of saving this. We're going to have to gut this car and start from scratch. We started off by removing all the back half of the car. This is where we started to. Bobby had a rear end and ladder bar set up, so we incorporated that into this car. So we made rear chassis rails for it and mounted the rear end. This was a simple ladder bar design that Bobby had in an old Malibu that he had condemned. We took the rear end and the ladder bar setup and we incorporated it into the Chevy II. We ended up removing all the floors, firewall, chassis, everything from this car. We had to start from scratch. We ended up building a 2x3 chassis as well as a full roll cage for this car. We built it with the car in place, and then once everything was tacked in place and we knew where everything had to go, we removed the body and welded everything up. Once the frame's all welded up, it was onto the front suspension. This was a tangly setup. We made up the front suspension from a bunch of parts. We had a Chevette rack. We retained the Chevy II lower control arms. We used a set of struts out of an IROC. It was a pretty tangly setup. We had to make upper plates. I had to make them by hand and get stuff machined. Once that was all figured out, it was on the paint. Here is how the rack and pinion was mounted, as well as the lower control arms. You can also see where the engine mounts went. With everything painted, it was time to start putting this all together. We reinstalled the body back onto the chassis and welded it on. Then I took on the job of having to build all the floors and the wheel tubs for this car and get them all installed in the car. Racing season was getting close. We never got carried away with doing body work on this car. We just turned around and just scuffed off the car and painted it flat black. With everything stickered up, she was now a race car and ready to go racing. Back then, the car was powered by a big block Chevy 454 LS7 with oval port 781 heads. It had a turbo 350 transmission with a 5200 stall. The car ran its best time at 985 at 138 miles an hour and weighed 2,960 pounds. After a few seasons of racing, it was time to revamp this car. She was a rugged old body. Quarter panels had been patched up many times, so it was time for me to turn around and make a set of quarter panels for it, as well as Bobby picked up some fiberglass panels to add to the car. The trunk lid was rough, the hood was rough, so we replaced all that with good panels. I welded up a bunch of panels on this car, doors and rockers and stuff like that in the car from all the years of abuse. Then it made his way over to his brother Terry, who'd done his magic, done all the body work on the car and got it painted a nice color green. It really smartened the car up and made the car look 10 times better. A little body work and paint goes a long way. With some fresh paint and some fiberglass panels, the car now weighed 3,000 pounds. Bobby swapped out the 454 and put in a bow tie 540 block with Grumpy Jenkins rec core heads, 1,050 Dominator carb, and still had the turbo 350 with the 5200 stall. The car went a best of 922 at 144 miles an hour with a 12960 foot. And Bobby was still foot braking, no trans brake in this car. In 2008 was the last of a quarter-mile track in Newfoundland. In 2009 we moved over to Eastbound Park, which was an 8th mile drag strip. The 8th mile times that this car ran were 585 at 116 miles an hour with a 12160 foot, and the wheels were up. It was impressive to watch. From 2009 to 2018, Bobby ran the Chevy II with the big block 540 in it, and in 2018 he lost the motor. Bobby was running big block Chevys for many, many years, and now he was running out of parts and it was getting costly to do the machine work involved in getting another big block put down the car. It was time to change things up. It was time to go the LS route. Bobby went and built a simple little LQ9 short block with stock block, stock heads, Holley single plane intake, an 850 carb with a BTR stage 4 camshaft. The car ran a best of 632 with a 1.3 60 foot at 107 miles an hour. Ran this combination for a number of years, playing around with it, tuning it, playing with the timing. It was time to build something. While the 2006 LQ9 was still running strong, Bobby went ahead and built another LQ9, this one 2003. New combination, had a set of 823 heads on that Bobby poured and polished himself. He also had to shave the heads to get the compression up on the motor, and at the same time, he took the stock pistons and had to fly cut them. Had a Holley split intake with a Barry Grant 1032 carb, and ran a best of 610 at 110 miles an hour with a 127 60 foot. And there you have it. That's the story on the old Chevy II. Hope you enjoyed this one. And until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side.